What is a self-image? It's the opinion you have of yourself. It's a blueprint of yourself. It's the roadmap of where you are going in life. You will use your self-image to develop a picture you have always wanted to see, a picture of yourself, surmounting difficulties and driving on to successful, happy conclusions. But why is this self-image so important? Because it's the product of past experiences, failures and successes, humiliations and triumphs. It's the way other people react to you, especially in early childhood. From these experiences, you can create a picture of yourself, and most important, you believe it's a true picture of yourself. But it so happens that this picture may be false. You can have many different pictures of yourself, but your self-image is the most important one, for that is the one that you believe to be true. You believe in it enough to base your actions on that truth. The self-image is the portrait you have taken of yourself. It is the only one that matters. It's the picture of yourself that you use that either makes you feel confident or insecure. If you see yourself as an ugly duckling, it doesn't matter that you may be as beautiful as a movie star. You'll act like an ugly duckling and never venture to take a screen test. Your own picture of yourself is the most important one. It doesn't matter how others see you, for they're not the ones who make you act. You have control over what you do. If your image of yourself is of a person who is a failure, you'll act as if you are a failure. How do you know that picture is true? Just because you carry it around with you doesn't make it true. It is important, but it may very well be false. You must change it. And that is where you should take comfort. Take advantage of the fact that if the picture is not true, it can be changed. And you are the one who can change it. It has been changed in thousands of cases, and it will be changed in thousands more. There's no cause for despair. You learn how to change this picture through time-proven methods that are so easy and so clear to each of us that it's no wonder that we overlook them. It just takes fresh, new insight. I've become very much involved with visualizing in my imagination the goals that I want to achieve in my own life. I even went so far as to develop this practice by inventing my own special imagery. Instead of saying I'm going to put my imagination to work for me, I say I'm going to sit for a while in the theater of my mind. I like this particular mental image because it's easy for almost everyone to visualize the theater. What makes the theater of your mind unique from other theaters is the key fact that no one on earth can prevent you from playing all the parts yourself. But you're also the director, the playwright, and the world's most appreciative audience. Best of all, you can halt and alter the storyline as you see fit. Try it and see if it works for you. It'll work more smoothly for you the more you practice at it.
The concept that Dr. Maltz called the playhouse or the theater of the mind is now widely known as visualization and has become an important component of almost all personal growth and self-help programs. It is not wishful thinking, nor is it daydreaming. When used properly and practiced daily, it can be a powerful tool for personal change. In the booklet that accompanies this tape, you will find sample exercises to help you master the skill of visualization. Now, back to Dr. Maltz.
We're all aware of the fact that behavior is controlled by the mind. The brain tells us what to do in the future based on its knowledge of the past. The brain has no future reading or fortune-telling capability. It's a marvelous computer, but it's limited to the past and the present. The only way it can see into the future is through the imagination. And you have total control over your own imagination. You can imagine yourself any way you want to in the future, success or failure. It's all up to you. But all too often, people are not willing to exercise this control. They allow their imagination to destroy their potential by picturing situations of the past in which they have failed. We all carry mental scrapbooks, But instead of preserving the joyous occasions of life, the moments of accomplishment, some people save only their times of failure and frustration. But it's so easy and simple to take control over your imagination. All you have to remember is that the brain has a hard time distinguishing between real and imagined experiences if they are vividly enough portrayed. If we picture ourselves functioning in specific situations, it's nearly the same as the actual performance. Mental practice can help you perform better in real life. A psychologist demonstrated this recently. Using controlled conditions, he sat his subjects in front of the target and told them to imagine that they were throwing darts at it. He did this for several days and found that this mental practice had improved their aim as much as actually throwing the darts. Another example is shadow boxing. Boxers regularly use this technique to improve their performance in the ring. You can shadow box in areas that are meaningful to you. Say you work in an office. You've held the same job for 2 years and you want a raise. You have made an appointment with your boss, but before you see him, you practice with your imagination. You can anticipate all the things that he will say. You can picture him in your mind telling you that you have not done well, that business is slow, and that you should be patient. This kind of mental exercise will just make you nervous in the coming situation. On the other hand, you can practice in the playhouse of your mind by telling yourself that you're worth the money. You create a picture of yourself telling your boss that since you've done good work, you feel you're entitled to the extra money. In your shadow boxing, you stress the positive aspects of the situation. You want to go in with confidence, and you will not have confidence if you are anticipating failure. Later, when you go in to see the boss, you will not act timid because you feel that you deserve what you're asking for. Your shadow boxing has prepared you by enhancing your self-image. By stressing the positive aspects of the situation, you have used your imagination to bolster your confidence before you ask the boss. Action is the product of the imagination. Habit is the result of imagination. Success and happiness, failure and unhappiness are two daily products of the imagination. You can achieve one or the other with the imagination. You can open the door to your living more life or less life through your imagination. It's up to you. You're only what you think you are, what you imagine you are. A woman, an acting teacher, told me how she had applied the principle to one of her drama pupils. She had a student who was an excellent actress because she hated herself in real life so much that she pitched into roles on stage in order to forget herself. In spite of her acting success, she was still miserable. The teacher took her aside one day and told her, "Create the role of someone with a personality you like and live it off stage." Her pupil found out that by smiling and being pleasant, instead of biting her lip and frowning, she made people like her and seek out her company. And after a while, she began to like herself too. She had created a new self-image of herself and grew to like it. This girl changed from a little self of hatred to a big self of contentment. In this new character she had created, she found a new person she liked, her big self. She used her imagination creatively. Creative imagination means the starting point of achievement. You must believe in yourself. You must be sincere with yourself, with others too. You must know the truth about yourself. You must see the better side of you. You must give yourself a new and better self-image. You must motivate yourself to improve yourself. You must have an inquiring mind. Inquire about yourself and about others in a healthy, constructive way. You must have a goal. You must act, apply yourself to reach your goal. You must refuse to be overcome and locked up with frustration.
Visualization, or creative imagination, is the basic tool that you can use to change your self-image. The reason it works is, as Dr. Maltz said, that your subconscious cannot tell the difference between a real event and one that is vividly imagined. Your subconscious can work for you just like a servo mechanism in any self-correcting machine. Your inner servo mechanism is impersonal. It'll work automatically to achieve the goals which you yourself set for it. Feed it success goals, and it functions as a success mechanism. Feed it negative aims, and it operates as a failure mechanism. Like any servo mechanism, it must have a clearly defined objective toward which to work. Once again, here's Dr. Maxwell Maltz.
You must use your imagination to develop the kind of willpower that will lead you to success and more success. Get out your motion picture projector. Now flash the picture on the screen of your mind. What do you see? You see success pictures. You must use imagination to project into your mind success pictures of yourself, to develop your will toward success, to build your power to create success. You see in your mind, again and again, your past successes and your good moments. Properly using your imagination, you build your self-image and pave the way for clear thinking. Within every human being are the success mechanism and the failure mechanism, and you have the choice of using either one in your daily living. Your forebrain behind the forehead is your goal-striving center, the seat of achievement. When you want to reach a goal, you call upon the tape recorder in your midbrain, your servo mechanism, the sum total of all your experience, good and bad, which works subconsciously, automatically. If you call upon your past successes, you will succeed in the present, provided your goals are realistic and within your capabilities and training. If, on the other hand, you call upon your past failures, you will fail even before you start, simply because you can't think positively with negative feelings any more than you can think negatively with positive feelings. The business of living creatively and reaching self-fulfillment, in essence, means learning to use the success mechanism, and equally important, substituting the success mechanism for the failure mechanism when you are overcome with a mistake that steers you away from successful living. You may have an electronic computer within your midbrain, but you control it, which means you control your own destiny. For example, here is my pen. I put it on the table. Now I want to pick up the pen. That's my goal, and I achieve it without effort. But when I was an infant and didn't know how to pick up the pen successfully, I zigged and I zagged in the direction of the pen, corrected my course, and finally picked up the pen. Information went to my brain to tell me that I was going in the wrong direction during the zig, and I immediately changed direction in the form of a zag. This process, the brain giving information to the arm during its action, is called negative feedback. It is the process of supplying corrective data to a mechanism while the action is taking place. And ever since then, I pick up the pen without effort, without knowing the muscles involved in the process. In other words, I forgot the zigging and zagging and remembered only the successful performance that I stored in my electronic computer, my servo mechanism, which I use whenever I need to. You can use your subconscious servo mechanism to succeed or to fail. It will work either way for you. The choice is yours. If you placed a 5-year-old at the console of the world's most complicated electronic computer, what would happen? The most that would come out of the computer would be gibberish. The child would not have learned to program the machine properly. Any machine is only as good as its operator. And we know that all of us have a complex computer right in our own heads. But all too often, we are like the 5-year-old at the computer. We have not programmed our own computer guidance systems. Instead of putting it to work for us towards creative goals, we let it sidetrack us by wandering over negative experiences of the past. What we have to do in order to achieve self-confidence is to give commands to our internal computer guidance system that will put us on the track of successful, positive experiences. Take the case of Helen, who felt inadequate because she was always afraid to involve herself with any kind of creative activity. She hated doing anything with her hands. Helen was made to see that she had been living under the domination of a distorted self-image. Her problem was revealed to her through the memory of a simple childhood experience. When she was 11 years old, Helen took piano lessons. She loved playing the piano, One day she was practicing her exercises, and she overheard her father and mother whisper to each other, "Well, she certainly is clumsy with her fingers. One thing is certain, our Helen will never be a real pianist." Helen was crushed. She immediately accepted as fact this careless observation about her hands. After all, it was made by her own parents. She accepted their belief. She hypnotized herself with their false belief. She set out to prove the truth of what her parents had so carelessly said. Pretty soon, the piano lessons degenerated so much that she abandoned her ambitions. And she abandoned, at the same time, her ability to work with her hands. As an adult, Helen avoided any activity that meant working with her hands. But through psycho-cybernetics, Helen realized that she couldn't be held responsible for the opinions of her parents as far as the piano was concerned. She immediately dehypnotized herself from these negative beliefs in herself. She was free to develop along her own capabilities, and she took up the piano again. There is a little Helen in all of us, and all of us can and should dehypnotize ourselves from the negative beliefs of others. You can undermine yourself with critical truths about yourself that even your own worst enemy couldn't possibly dream up. You base your feelings of inferiority on evidence that any fair-minded jury would reject. Your truth about yourself is not truth at all. It's often just a prejudiced case that you are conducting against yourself. When we feel inferior, it's because we measure ourselves against somebody else. We convince ourselves of the entirely ridiculous idea that we should be like somebody else or even everybody else. I cannot hit a golf ball as far as Arnold Palmer. Fine. But it doesn't make me feel the least inferior. Every day I meet people, bookkeepers, salesmen, corporation presidents. They are all superior to me in some area. So what? There are other things I can do better than they can. Yet many people believe that they're so inferior that they simply cannot live with themselves. To make life tolerable, they strive to be superior. It's a false lead. Superiority and inferiority are just two sides of the same coin. The cure is to realize that the coin is simply counterfeit. The simple truth is that you're neither inferior nor superior to your fellow human beings. You are you, that's all. That's the whole story. You are unique. Rejoice in that. You must realize that you're not required to be right 100% of the time. It is the nature of things that we progress by acting, by making mistakes, and by correcting our course of action. You cannot correct your course by standing still. You must consider the facts, imagine various courses of action, and then choose the one that seems to be the best solution. Then you must go ahead. In overcoming uncertainty, you must realize that self-esteem plays a role in indecisiveness. Some people are indecisive because they fear a loss of self-esteem if they should make a mistake. But big men and big personalities make mistakes and admit them. Only little men are never wrong. Remember these points about uncertainty. Uncertainty makes you retreat. You must face life. Continual uncertainty makes you unfit for action. You can reach your full measure of dignity not merely by achieving success, but by rising above your failures. You must remember that resentment is not caused by other persons or events. It is your own emotional response to circumstances. You alone can control it by convincing yourself that resentment and self-pity are not ways to happiness and success, but to unhappiness and defeat. The resentful person is dependent on other people. He makes unreasonable demands on them, feeling that they owe him a debt of gratitude, that they should recognize him for his superior worth. When you become resentful, you lose your self-reliance. You turn the reins over to others. Resentment is the most wasteful aspect of the failure mechanism because it consumes the energy by which success might have been achieved. Emptiness means that you are avoiding effort and responsibility, thereby creating more emptiness. Emptiness reflects an inadequate self-image. Even if you achieve material success, you will feel a sense of guilt, or in your heart, you will believe that you don't deserve it. You must strive for goals that are consistent with your self-image. That is the beginning of success and happiness, for it brings about a deep inner satisfaction. You must be aware of the negative factors in order to steer clear of them. The negative should alert you to danger. Each component of the failure mechanism abuses the person who uses it. You must learn to shift the failure mechanism into the success mechanism when it appears. When you have feelings of fear or frustration, remember your courage. When you feel anger or aggressiveness, put it to work as self-confidence. When you are feeling insecure, remember, maturity begins with self-acceptance. When you have chronic feelings of loneliness, replace them with understanding for others. When you are uncertain, tell yourself not to be afraid of a mistake. You will grow from it. Let me give you an example through a true story which will illustrate a common negative emotional situation. I happen to know a hurdle champion who won many medals at college. He was the epitome of grace, agility, and fast footwork. He took the hurdles with such ease that it was hard to remember that it was the result of practice, courage, and endurance. It just seemed to come to him naturally. After college days were over, a friend gave him a job as a salesman in his insurance company. But somehow, he never got far in his job as a salesman. Although he was likable and made friends easily, he managed to sell only a small amount of insurance during the year. He just didn't seem to have the drive, the courage, or the perseverance. He lost the desire to achieve the perfection that made him a champion hurdler. One day, at a college class reunion, he met some of his former classmates. They spent time at the track where some of the current students were practicing jumping the hurdles. His friends coaxed him to try to see how good he still might be. His judgment, not improved by a couple of drinks, he went ahead and borrowed a pair of spikes and rushed to jump the hurdles on the course. He remembered only how good he had been in the past, and at the first hurdle, he slipped and broke his leg. He was in a cast for a month. This gave him some time to think and to take stock of himself. He realized that he was much too old now for hurdle jumping, but that when he was a student, he had self-confidence, understanding of his craft, courage, and self-acceptance. He suddenly realized that there was no reason on earth why he couldn't be a champion salesman. He knew that fear and lack of confidence kept him from being a champion. When he was well again, he approached selling insurance with the same understanding, the same tenacity, and the same desire for excellence that he had applied to athletics. He practiced how to approach a customer, rehearsed in his mind what to say, studied how to overcome possible obstacles, and refused to be dismayed if he was not perfect at first, so long as he was improving. In less than a year, he became a top-flight salesman, increased his earning capacity, and enjoyed the satisfaction that comes with overcoming a difficulty, as well as of being able to do more for his family. You too can jump the hurdles of tension and stress. You can approach every day's goal with confidence, with the assurance that you have the power to make your failures into stepping stones. You must always remember the saying, failure teaches success. Now picture yourself as a hurdle jumper, determined to succeed. Plan the program by which you will map your progress to success. Keep the picture of success before you when you are confronted by stress and tension.